Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and welcome to another episode of Chasing Legends. Welcome back to Chasing Legends. Please leave a comment if you enjoy it. If you don't, you can leave a comment. I don't get hurt about it. Hit the notifications bell. Subscribe up to our channel. We're happy to join everybody again. Pick up a t-shirt if you like. We got the Legends Superstition Mountains t-shirts. We got the Dutch Hunter Rendezvous shirts in black and gray, short and long sleeve. I got that down pretty good now. All that said and being done, a lot of people on comments, remember how you speak or how you type is how it goes through. There's a lot of stuff we lose because of the algorithms. It'll think it's nonsense, or if you're trying to be tricky or certain things, if we don't answer you don't see a like or a comment next to there from the channel, that means it didn't go through. And sometimes we get a notification and we spend a lot of time trying to dig out and find out where that comment went, because we always want to respect you guys enough to make sure we hit a like and let you guys know we read all the comments and we see them, even the ones in the notifications, but sometimes we can't answer them when they show up in the video. We don't delete unless it's something with a link that's kind of shady. We're not looking, no porn, no Bitcoin, okay guys? Yeah. Now anyways, going from there, so now next week we'll have all the Bitcoin and porn comments. So going from there, I wanted to talk, and last episode I was dealing with, there's a lot of people come out, and I had one guy come out, and he came up to me, and he talked to me, and I was trying to talk him out, because it was like June, and it was pretty warm out, and he was probably in his mid-60s, and I was like, I don't think you need to go out. And we went back and forth, and we ended up in some phone calls, and it was like, I don't think you need to be out there. And I tried to kind of give him, and I think I deter a lot of people, but there are people you just can't deter. And I told him, you know what, let's just keep talking about this and kind of, watch some of our videos and some of the stuff goes on. Sometimes guys like that, they're just not going to listen. There was another individual came in and he brought to me, he had a Julia Thomas map, because the Julia Thomas map's real. And he had the Brownie Holmes map, the Dick Holmes maps, the Dick Holmes map. And he had the stone maps, and he used these things, and it was definitely, he said the stone maps, the trail maps are very important, but the most important ones are the priest and whores. And everyone here joining us should know how I feel about these things. Well, the Julia Thomas map is a facsimile of what people think her map might have looked like, or an Arnold drew that and put it in his book in the 40s, I believe. There is no known Julia Thomas map in existence. There is one on leather cowhide in Texas on a certain ranch that Travis Tumlinson lived on, which should explain something about the stone maps as well, which if you're following along there in the coloring book and the stone maps and the fake Julia Thomas map that he made, the Dick Holmes map, Dick Holmes and Barney Holmes said they never saw it and didn't know what it was about. And I tried to sit with him and piece by piece explain this stuff of, you're doing all this stuff. But he had mathematical equations. He had several notepads, and he started sending me these mathematical equations. Like most of you, I'm sure, our math, we left it far behind. We use what's necessary in day-to-day life, and I started trying to work out what he was talking about, and it seemed a bit more getting close to physics, wormholes, and all kinds of other strange things that I had no idea, but I was ready to break out the quantum physics, and then I realized his numbers sometimes didn't even add up or weren't even done properly. So I started explaining all this, and then finally he said, you know what? I think I'm going to find another hobby. And he just disappeared. I felt kind of bad about it, but I don't want someone risking their neck over something that isn't very real. Now, there's going to be people there's people that believe in stuff regardless. And this week, there are people that believe, people go out there and things happen to people. Well, in the 1980s, because I wanted to cover the 1980s, and I want to give a little mix of the 1980s. Starting in 1980, a guy named Ricky Dean, his remains were found in Trap Canyon, and some people may know where Trap Canyon, and maybe we'll do an episode sometime where I show you where particular points of the mountains are, and we'll talk about those things. But his remains were found. He had been lost. Shortly after that, later in the next month, in February, Chuck Crawford found the Lost Dutchman Mine. Pay very close attention to this name because Chuck Crawford found the mine several times, okay? which is one of the things I try to explain to people is a lot of people found the mine. Don't be offended when I don't believe you found the mine. So Chuck Crawford found the Lost Dutchman Mine, and this may have been the share of land up in LaBarge Box. It may have not. I don't know which one, because sometimes when they claim to found the mine, I don't remember the whole article. I'll know the particular dates, and I have something written down. And I didn't have time to pull all the files and go into detail. Maybe sometime we'll go through and I'll start doing these lists of these mines that have been found, unless someone else steals the whole idea from me and does it on their channel. Okay, by November 1980, Joe Mays had found the Crystal Skull treasure in the Superstition Mountains. Now, I was contacted by one of the people that must have been friends with him. He took Tom Collenborn back in the mountains, and they filmed this whole thing about them finding this crystal skull. It's in a crack, and I might tell that story sometime. Somebody got in touch with myself and Randy Wright, and I can't remember what his name was, but we went back and forth for a while, and he gave us directions, and Randy and I couldn't find nothing even associated, anything he was talking about. He had us more up in Second Water, and I know this was supposed to be down in LaBarge Box, I thought. But either or, whatever, it's the Crystal Skull treasure. But Joe Mays had found it. They filmed it, and I guess I've never seen the Crystal Skull. It's supposedly back in a crack. You can see it in a crack in the rock. It's sitting on boxes in a cave. No pictures, of course, sorry. In May that year, Thomas Biardi was going to capture Bigfoot, and out at Rivas Ranch. I never found anything followed up on this. I was very interested in this because I didn't know about the Bigfoot out there at Rivas Ranch. They might like apples, but as far as I know, he didn't have any video, any film footage, any photographs, and there's nothing else brought up, so he must not have been successful, but it's a really nice place to be. A couple episodes ago I talked about it. Howard Van Devenger in 81, though, he found the Lost Dutchman Mine. So poor Chuck Crawford had found it, but now Howard found it because Chuck must have been walking around and it fell out and got lost again. So then, you know, this guy, Howard Van... But I don't know who Howard Van Devenger is. And Salvador, if anybody knows this guy's name, give me a clue, because I've never heard the name. I've never run across it in anything before. So, but anyhow... But on a sadder note, in July, Shirley Hodge, 33 years old, was found. She died of heat exhaustion at First Water, which I've pointed out. First Water, a lot of people die in those areas because of heart attacks and heat exhaustion and so forth. And then in No Name Canyon, if you're familiar with that, in 82, a gentleman named Daniel Dean fell. And that's one of the number one, outside of heat exhaustion and all that. And the next one is people out recreationally, and they start climbing around out there, and they fall to their deaths. But shortly, about a month or two later, Chuck Crawford found the Lost Dutchman again, because Howard Van Devenger must have dropped it. And then probably Chuck went back through there, and he looked and said, there it is again, and he picked it up. However, in a sad note, in January 2nd of 83, James Veckel, a physician out of Phoenix, I believe, was found dead out by Tortilla Flat. And I don't always include the ones that are in Apache Junction or along Apache Trail in certain areas, because I consider them kind of outside the mountain range, but anything in the Tortilla version, because a lot of people will climb back up behind Tortilla Flat. And I believe that's what this was. He was hiking up in there, and he kind of died. This next one is very curious. February in 83, this person is called Michael Bilfrey, and he found the Lost Dutchman Mine on Tortilla Mountain using the stone maps. Now, I don't know if this is the same Michael Bilbrey that found the stone crosses, and he found them in the area of Tortilla, and Bilbrey supposedly found that stuff with a guy, maybe the guy's name was Guy or something. Guy Man? I don't know. Anyways, those two guys found it, and those stone crosses, and maybe Paul Shimmick, who actually has Jim Hatt's replicas of them, would remember this. And if Paul ever watches my videos, hey Paul, if you do, shoot me an email or something, or a phone call about that, because I'm not quite sure. It seems odd. It could be a typo. There's a Michael Bilbrey and a Michael Bilfrey, but supposedly Bilfrey found it on Tortilla Mountain, and I'm going to kind of guess a little this could be Bilbrey, and they just got his name wrong. So he picked it up. I don't know what Chuck Crawford was doing up there when it dropped out of his pocket, but now Bilbrey has found it. In April of that year, though, in 83, Christian Richardson fell in Fraser Canyon and died. Again, it's recreational. It's not a miner. They always make sure it's a guy from out of town who was out hiking recreationally and went camping and fell. 83, William Fowler was struck by lightning in Boulder Canyon, one of those more unusual ones. I guess several people were struck by it. William Fowler did not make it out. And then Billy Crater had a heart attack out by the Quarter Circle U, which is not very mysterious. He was working out by there. He was an older gentleman and all, and died out just down the road by Peralta Road or whatever it's called there, going back in there. Of course, the most famous one that a lot of people hear about mixed in with all this is Walter Gassler. Was a Dutch hunter, a treasure hunter. He was 82. He had a heart attack going up from Charlie Boy up to Peters Mesa. So, you know, there's a mysterious about that Crazy Jake was in the area, but he died of natural causes up there in the mountains. He was going back in. The skeletal remains of William Craftscher were found at First Water. He'd been camped out there, and that showed up. Then, and suddenly, August of '85, Das Lucas found the Lost Dutchman Mine. So the other guys all lost it. Das Lucas found it. Now this is when I think he found it out by the Wasp or the Bulldog. He was out in that area somewhere, and he found the tintype and the Jewish Bible and all this other stuff, and Waltz's glasses and everything in Waltz's camp. Das Lucas ended up selling some of this pretty cheaply to Greg Davis's father. And Greg Davis's father, all this passed through to Greg into the museum and the archives, where you can see the tintype. Randy Wright did a great work up on that the tintype is not quite what we thought it was, and it might be a Jacob Waltz, but it's not the Jacob Waltz that was here. But very interesting. It's always purported to be a picture of him. Do not believe so. But anyhow, that all being said, Das Lucas also was arrested later for selling drugs to school children, I believe. And his name was like Jean-Paul something. I don't know. Greg will smack me for not remembering it. Greg's mother did not like the gentleman and told his father that she never wanted him in her house again. So old Das Lucas found the Lost Dutchman Mine. Skeletal remains of Sherry McGee were found. She'd been missing since 1980. So this is in '86. John McDougall had a heart attack at Peralta Trail, recreational hiking. But in December of '87, yes, just a year later, Das Lucas now found the Lost Dutchman Mine down at Kearney Springs, the other entire end of the mountains. He managed to find it there, so it must have fallen out over there. I don't know. It's unusual that you find someone that has found the mine in two completely different ends of the mountains within a year of each one. So I don't even know the whole story of that. If anybody ever reads Das Lucas's writings, he wrote every which angle and tried to keep every words on every piece of the paper, and it sometimes comes up to just like alien gibberish. So I don't even know if he's still alive. I don't know. Be interesting to talk to him to find out what was going through his head during all that time. February '88, Patricia Berry, near the Quarter Circle U, she went missing. She'd been missing for a couple months or a month or so. Her remains were found. Again, just out there along Peralta Road. In April 13th of 1988, that's when Jay Frazier found the Lost Dutchman Mine in Carefree, Arizona. I have the book here. Lost Dutchman Mine Discoveries. Jay Frazier found it. So when you guys are always saying, you know what, I found it, and well, Jay Frazier found it. He wrote a book. Nowadays, people don't write books. They get in forums and they post stuff on Facebook and stuff. But it was an interesting book. He found some mining operations up there, and he believed it had to do with the Lost Dutchman. Jay Frazier, cool. Nice little book and so forth and all that. And I know there's a few people still believe in his theories and stuff. There's a guy believes he has the Lost Dutchman Mine in Carefree and stuff. And heard all about that a number of times. In November, Gary Turner found another stone map. I don't know what happened to this stone map. I know there were other stone maps. John Burbridge and Erie Schaefer, in letters between them, there were a number of people trying to still sell stone maps before the Life magazine and after the Life magazine article. I don't know anything about Gary Turner's stone maps, but it became a thing for a while, and I guess in the 80s, because of the stone crosses, now there were more stone maps unearthed. So it's kind of cool. We have the Peralta stone maps, or whatever you want to call them, but then, Tumlinson made more, and then he had duplicates of them, and then other people started making their stone maps, and then you have the Latin Heart, which was another kind of stone map that didn't really belong with the original stone maps. If you're getting confused, trust me, it can get real confusing. In '89, Robert Guardadino was found and died in Monument Canyon. Very unfortunate aspect. That kind of covers the 90s for the people that found the Lost Dutchman. People passed away. Not trying to make light or in any way, but trying to point out most of the deaths and a lot of things. And I'm not going to go through all the people that get lost, because people get lost all the time. Sometimes I get lost doing this and not quite sure where I started or where I'm ending. But the point being is, when most people go into the mountains, I think they kind of go in with the kind of a attitude of like, it ain't no big deal. I'm fine. You know, I do 5 miles a day by the canal, you know, I'm good. And then they get out and they find everything's a little different. Your elevation changes, little things. They bought some new hiking boots. Everything just doesn't happen. And especially your health. I mean, you can get up early and go to do something like that, and you go out and then you just have that. And I know Randy and Wright were with a couple gentlemen where a gentleman had he had a stroke, and we were there with him, and that was a pretty miserable experience, because he was just out on a nice little hike with his friends and family, and they had to bring in the helicopter and evacuate him out of Garden Valley. And it was pretty traumatic, obviously, for him. He was going to be all right. We were able to get him in a cool spot and plenty of water, and he relaxed. But, you know, to need a medical emergency like that, health-wise, and be in that area, so difficult, and so, you know, it's something that's pretty messed up. So we're always concerned about safety. Hopefully everybody doesn't take this all lightly completely, takes it in historical value and so forth. Remember to take caution, take care in their future hikes. And we will continue kind of talking about this kind of thing as we go in, because we're in hiking season and we're heading to the summer and the warmer weather, where everybody gets all worked up and they get their Google Maps stuff and they got their little cell phone and they're all ready, and they go out there because they're going to find it, because, you know, someone else probably dropped it somewhere along the line. So until the next time, I'm Wayne Tuttle. This is Chasing Legends. Hope you had a good time. Take care, and we'll catch you next time.